very recently, where my client's father said that his grandfather was approached by Germans during the Second World War, and they were paying him because they wanted to know, more about what happened in India and what the local traditional stories were that grew up around these sites that were up in it was up in the southern area of India. So, if it's happened here, perhaps it happened on Mars as well. Who am I to say? I'm not going to go crazy with it. I'm not going to say, oh, there's Martians, because I don't think there's intelligent life that lives there now. And I think that the Corey Good story is kind of silly that's out there. I don't think we have jump rooms to Mars and such. But did Mars have an intelligent civilization at one point in history? It's possible. And I'm certainly not going to say that is not a possible thing. It's kind of compelling with certain things they're finding out now. And there may still be life on Mars, which is kind of interesting, huh?
Oh, yeah. Can I ask you a question? Why do you think we never went back to the moon?
Maybe we were warned off. There's stories about Neil Armstrong. When Neil Armstrong came back, he was certainly interested in UFOs. I've heard this through Paul Hynek. I mean, Paul Hynek has all the paperwork. His father and Neil Armstrong had a correspondence, and they went on a cruise ship to see a solar eclipse, and Neil Armstrong could have sat with anybody that was on that ship. Isaac Asimov was on that ship. I think Arthur Clarke was on that ship. All kinds of scientists. Who did Neil Armstrong want to sit with? He requested personally that he wanted to sit at the table with J. Allen Hynek, and he wanted to sit there so he could talk about UFOs. And there's some that there's a lot of stories out there that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin saw something very strange when they got to the moon. They say that perhaps they were tracked by UFOs and being watched.
Well,
from the rim of a crater is what I've heard.
Well, they went as far. They went as far, Earl, as one of them when he got onto the ground or the soil or whatever you want to call it on the moon. First thing he started saying, "Look at these craft," and they were telling him go to the medical channel because it was secure. But he was saying he was saying things like, "This is bigger than anything." It was really funny. Now, he was with the president here recently, and he was like, giving awards and, doing all this stuff to these astronauts.
Good old Buzz.
Yeah. And, it's something that the president said, like basically that, he doesn't believe in UFOs. And he said something in that nature, and you could see he rolled his head back. You could see his eyes just roll, and he was mouthing something when Trump said that.
Yeah, I saw that video footage too. I thought it was pretty interesting. Well, Buzz doesn't suffer fools. There was a guy that was trying to get him to admit that we hadn't gone to the moon, and Buzz decked him. He gave him a bloody nose. I love that story, actually. Not that I want people to go and act out violently, but, well, hey, it's Buzz Aldrin, and he gets a pass, and, hey, he went to the moon. We may have found strange stuff there that, NASA knows stuff that they're not telling us. I think that we know all the FOIA reports that have been submitted and all the documents that we have. The military knows, the government knows, and I'm sure that NASA knows, but they don't feel that humanity in general is ready for this information. They're just leaking it drip by drip, and we're getting more information about it now than we used to. With the Nimitz affair and everything, the Tic Tac and all that's been coming out, but it's still a slow drip, drip, drip. And they're not going to come to the fore, and I think that's up to us. I think it's up to the public, up to the private sector to prove this, because I don't think the government's ever going to go out and say that we are not alone. And would anybody believe them if they did? I mean, with the way partisanship is nowadays, if the president came out and said that we're not alone, that they're here, that they're intelligent, and they're, watching us, that half of the country would believe him and the other half would think he was lying. It's a sad fact of the way that we live now and where sociology has gone with humanity. But it's up to us, I think, to find to disclose this phenomenon. I feel very blessed that I get to go and I get to investigate the cases that I get to investigate. I've never been stopped. There's never been men in black at my door that have told me to shut up. I've never had an incident, anything like that. I feel that I've met government operatives. I think I've met operatives from other countries before too, but it's never been like you have to stop what you're doing.
So I don't know. Here's the thing, Timothy Cullen. Now, I'm sure you know who he is. He was the number 9th implant removal from the late Dr. Roger Lear. I've had him on my show about 6 times. And every time we start talking about certain subjects, his phone line would go really scratchy and would start breaking up. And it got frustrating. So back here about 2 months ago, he went and had a new line, or the phone company come out and check his line. He put a new phone in. He then, because he was going to be coming on the show again, he went out and bought a military-grade cell phone. Okay? It figured, if something happens, we can go back to his cell phone. Now, this is what was always happening. When we start talking about his implant removal, what it looked like, and all this stuff, the lines would go really scratchy. So then, we would go, hey, Tim, I'm going to call you on your other line, which is his cell phone. Perfect. Till I bring up the same subject again. The line would go cruddy, So he went and had this all done. I bring him on the show here about a month and a half ago. We get it, no problem with the line. Beautiful line. Nothing wrong with it. Till I asked him the same subjects again. The line started going really scratchy where we couldn't even talk. I could then, disconnect, call his cell phone, beautiful signal, start going back to the same question. Guess what happened? But if there may be certain items that in particular that they don't want out there. I know Dr. Irina Scott, whenever she goes on Whitley Strieber's show, they always have problems with her phone line that she usually doesn't have. Well, the same way. She was on my show twice. And then when we got into a little bit about what she saw, all of a sudden we had problems.
Well, she was old DIA, so she's...
yeah, there you
go. They may be trying to silence some of what she has to say, because she has pretty amazing stories. And when you hear it from a PhD who worked for the government, worked at Wright-Patterson and places like Battelle Institute.
Oh, didn't she? She was looking at images and stuff like that, if I remember right. That was one of her functions. Yeah.
Over the Ural Sea, over in the Eastern Bloc areas, she saw 2 different passes of a satellite that showed a disc that was flying over the what was it, the Baltic Sea, I guess it was, and she brought it to the attention of her superiors. And they kind of gave her the 3rd degree and told her, you did not see anything, and they took everything away. And it's like, you will not talk about this stuff. And she is talking about stuff now. She no longer works for the government, and it's been 40 some years since she saw this stuff, and of course Dr. Irina had an experience herself with her sister where she saw a UFO and had missing time, and their car was lit up during the daytime with like a green laser sort of thing. And this was back in the 1960s. I think it was 68 when she and her sister went through this, and she was actually working for the government back then.
Yeah, that was a scary story.
They may be tracking her a little more carefully. Yeah.
Well, somebody I used to be friends with was with the DOD for like 13, 14 years, What he told me is if they are monitoring a particular person, right? And now you're talking to him on the phone. Now you're on the list. Now they're still monitoring him. They're monitoring you. And then whoever you talk to now becomes in, you know how it goes.
Yeah, I figure we're probably on some lists. But, I mean, I'm a patriotic American, so I don't worry about it too much. So far, I haven't had any malevolent, governmental encounters with anybody. I've had some strange encounters with certain people that were a little spooky, but nobody's told me to stop what I'm doing, thankfully. So hopefully that continues.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm going to keep doing it anyway,
Well, same with me, because if you notice on my show, I talk about UFOs probably a lot more than most shows do, and aliens and abductees and implants and stuff like that. I make a point of at least 3 days a week, if not more, bringing different guests on. And I tell you, I've had a couple encounters of some strange phone calls telling me to lay off certain subjects. Well, I never back down, and I won't.
Yeah. Well, it's the most interesting thing that's happening on the planet. And, I'm not going to waste my time with silly trivia or hoaxes and stuff like that. I want to know what's actually happening as well as I can know. And so I'm hooked, and hook, line, and sinker. This isn't going to stop. I'm a lifer. So I told, Jan Harzan and a couple of people at MUFON as much. I said, I'm a lifer. I am. It's the most important thing to me, really, other than family and I'm a lifelong musician, but quite honestly, I think that this phenomenon and trying to understand it is even more important to me than music. It's the most important thing to me.
I think it inspires your music. I think it really, if you listen to some of your music, I think it inspires of it. Because I tell you, the two songs I play of yours, one, besides the truckers love it, if you can actually tell that what you're involved in is carrying over into your music. Otherwise, I don't think some of this music you're doing, it wouldn't have ever materialized. I think it's because
it's emotional.
It's emotional.
It's emotional. So it's going to come out in your emotions. And if you're writing music that matters, then it's you're kind of tapping your emotions and putting it out there. So yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I only had you scheduled to the bottom of the hour. I don't know if you want to continue on a few minutes after the news. That's up to you.
Sure. I'm good.
Okay. Now, James is out there listening. I had him disconnect off the phone line. Call back on your regular line at the bottom of the hour, James. And I'm sure you got some questions to ask Earl. And I got a few more questions to ask him and all that stuff. So, everybody, you're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. My name is Gary. We got Earl Grey on. Check our website out, www.nightdreamstalkradio. And we'll be back in about 3.5 minutes.
Perfect.